How's it going, YouTube? Coming to today with another video, and today, guys, so the video is going to be a brand new type of video, and this is going to be around the format. I really do hope that you enjoy today's video because there's going to be a lot to talk about. Today, I really want to hone in on the different tech choices that are being used. I'm going to be gutting through different deck lists and talking about what I like, what I don't like, if this is viable, and if it's something that you should be looking out for. There's a lot of different ways that you can utilize a video like this, especially if you're playing in a tournament and you can determine what you're playing against a lot faster because you see really interesting tech options and you're like, oh, it's actually just like this deck that I'm playing against, right? If you're going first and you get like orange lighted, you'll see why that's important to know what you're playing against, right? So there's definitely going to be quite a few things that I want to talk about today. And also like different decks that are not super popular that are doing a lot better lately. We'll talk about that too, and just kind of break through a couple of the different deck lists that I really want you to be able to see and be aware of. If you haven't already checked out my sponsors, I'm on Gem, Cloud, Arla, Imperium, Dragonshield, RW, MainPhaze, and Grimoire. Definitely go and do so down below in the description. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, definitely go and do so we can hit our goal at 30,000. And without further ado, let's hop right into our first deck here. The first one I have for today is going to be Dark Lord. I think that this deck is absolutely fantastic. It's extremely cheap outside of like impulses, they're like 25s, right? And then accusations. You want to have accusations. You can always sub it out for like warnings and judgment, but like accusations are a really strong card. But the deck itself is extremely dirt cheap. I don't really like Psy-frames. I'm not a big fan of these, but the orange light, however, is absolutely fantastic. This card is crazy. Being able to send the one that searches a forbidden card or a Dark Lord card anyways, so you can just like get to more board breaking potential or just like get to more engine that you want. You're also playing things like Super Poly because you have the room for it. You know, a deck like this is something that I really do have a lot of excitement for. And it's something that I think will end up being in the format for a while, whether it's a tier 1 threat or not, which I don't believe that it is. It's still something at tier 2 that like could shock you, right? If you play against it. Having the portal and the Validium, what a more perfect package to be able to fit into a deck like this as well. I really do like this deck, and I think that it has a lot of ways to really shock the format in general. And if you don't know what these cards do, you probably should. Now for the Majest's Fairy Tale deck, this deck has popped up a ton this weekend, and we just got Glorious Gallery, so of course this is going to have some kind of impact to the format. That impact being specifically the Regulus, which is a really strong card for the archetype. So this is something that you want to make sure that you are really versed with and you know how to play against. Obviously, Snow being able to be summoned in this deck in multiple ways is kind of crazy, and they're going to get a lot of Book of Moons on you. They're going to have a lot of different ways that they can kind of like push for lethal or put up negation. Instant fusion alone in this deck is pretty crazy to summon things like Teller. So you really want to make sure that you are prepared to deal with something like this. The deck itself is very technical, and if you don't know what the deck does, then that's going to be problematic. I'll be including this one in my next Where to Hand Trap, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And notice how Super Poly is still in this deck list too, and we're going to be seeing that a lot because Super Poly is something that is extremely in the format, and you really got to be ready for this. It's funny because I talked about this in Striker like for a while, and I was like, Super Poly is really gaining traction, and I kept advocating for it, and now it's literally everywhere in the format because this card, I was telling y'all, it's just so broken. Right now, if you want to be successful, your deck list realistically has to have Super Poly or Fallen Virtuous in it. These cards are so very broken, top of tier 0 non-engine support this format. They are just the best. Now, talking about Super Poly in one of my favorite decks, one of the things that really mind-boggled me about this deck list is that they're not playing Caesar, which is weird. I don't like that. They're also playing Redoer. I'm not a fan of that either. But I'm also hypercritical about Tier Limit because it's one of my favorite decks. I've been playing it forever. This deck list is interesting. I don't necessarily think that it's like bad. Definitely a couple changes that I would personally make, but I feel like I can see what they were going for. It's very clean cut as to what they wanted, right? Playing triple Foolish Burial Goods is like a lot, but I get it. I feel like one of those probably should have just been Foolish Burial, but like, you know, but it is cool to see Tier Limit topping again. I think that it's really nice. This is something that I want to check out with the Light and Darkness archetype. I think that it's going to be really cool and really interesting because it gets you an immediate Vampire and Pilgrim Reaper. So definitely going to be a very cool deck moving forward. I think that it also randomly just has like an insane matchup with the Cool Tune archetype, just because you can kind of flood the board and play through a lot of what they do anyways. Like Zaylin can negate in the chain, which is kind of a custom card against tier limit, but you have so many things in the chain usually that it just like doesn't matter, right? So definitely very cool to see this deck top again, and maybe this leads to future tops for the deck as well. Now, as for pure Power Patron, this deck has gotten really popular, and Sloth is like $13. I'm pretty sure Sloth and Goliath do like the same thing though, so I'm pretty sure that's probably why they played the Goliath here, just because now it's like considered the budget option, which I'm sure will change shortly. But I mean, this deck is just doing what it's doing, right? It's saying you can't use spell cards, you can't use your extra deck, have fun. And that's where I'm like, yo, if this deck was the best deck in the room, we'd all be playing Mermail, right? Because at that point, you're just playing the Dominus trap cards and you are just summoning everything out of hand and it's all crazy interruptions, right? So definitely a very interesting deck. But if it was like the be all and all best deck, we do have counters for something like this, which is funny. Things like Pendulum Treasure that you never really thought was going to be like a really meta relevant card, just randomly being one of the craziest cards to this deck, and Erota is just like kind of wild, right? But again, we see Super Poly, right? Like you're playing Super Poly, you're falling Virtuous right now, you're playing one or the other. It's just so good. Just such a crazy card right now. But yeah, this deck is kind of what it is, right? It's just kind of Floodgate Turbo, and then Validium randomly going second can just like OTK your opponent, right? So definitely something to consider, but a deck in the format nonetheless. Another one here that just got first place is going to be Enneacraft. I hate this deck personally, but I think it's funny that even in a deck like this, they're playing Fallen and Virtuous, right? So Fallen and Virtuous is Super Volley. You have to play one of these cards. They're just too broken not to play. Spear Mode, I think, is correct in the sideboard, though. I think Spear Mode is just utterly broken. It's also really good if you play against this deck, by the way. You just play against any craft and you just go Spear, right? So it's very, very good. Very, very crazy card. But the deck itself is kind of just a really crazy, grindy stun deck. So, I mean, it's something that if you don't really know how to play against the deck, it can be kind of brutal. So, that's something that in your free time you might want to sit down and really learn how to play against this. Things like Ogre, very good. Droll, if you want to ash one of the scales and pray for the best, right? That they don't have more, but they usually do. I always think that it's really frustrating when you like stop the scales for like the search effect and then they just have like the field spell, they bounce it back and they have more bodies to summon, right? But I mean, it's just a stun deck. It's what it is. The other thing too is so they have subspace battle. If you have big monsters in your deck. You have like Nibiru, you're on Dark Lord cards, you have Murakumo. If your opponent uses Subspace Battle, A, you're playing against Enneacraft. B, reveal the biggest thing that you have in your deck because your opponent is going to be revealing 3000s with this. So if you reveal like Nibiru, then they can't add because it's going to be 3000, 3000. They both go back. If you only have like one Nibiru in their deck, the next one, if they're smart, they'll reveal like the small one and then you'll add the Nibiru. And on the third time, they'll try to reveal a 3000 again. If you have another like big monster, reveal it then, and then they literally can't add off subspace. But if you don't, then they get to add off the last one. So definitely just like a hot tip if you're playing against this, so your opponent doesn't just get to add a ton, right? Because this card can be brutal if you have nothing big to just reveal for this card. But definitely a deck to play against in the format that you have to know what you're doing against. The last one here is really surprising for me because Radiant Typhoon is actually just topping just as much as before with one chant. But the popular way to run this now is some Dragoonity cards in the extra deck, and you're also running Speedroid cards in the main deck. It's a very small package, but you're running the Link 2, and you're running the 2 that you see here in the middle of the screen. And I mean, the deck is still doing its thing. The deck is still able to play. And not to point out again, but Fallen Virtuous, right? So definitely something that you can see through all these topping lists. Everyone's playing one or the other. Most lists too are also playing Droplet and Crown, by the way. So, take that for what you will, but you can definitely see the meta trends in the topping list, and it makes sense, right? These cards are very good. They're very broken. That's why Crown is minimum $100. But these are the cards you really want to be running if you want to do well. Do you necessarily need them to do well? That's arguable, but are they going to make your life a lot easier? Probably. So definitely something to consider. Let me know what you thought about today's video. If you liked it, let me know down below in the comment section. And if you're looking for any other content, let me know that too. I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you.